Tax cuts brought forward. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at a few articles discussing the tax cuts brought forward. And can you guess the bias that we're going to see in these articles? Can you guess, before we even go any further, what do you think the ABC's take is going to be? You know, tax cuts, you know, if you answered, it's only for the rich, 5 points to you for your social justice knowledge. So, big tax cuts all but confirmed by Scott Morrison. Scott Morrison has all but confirmed that the government will bring forward tax cuts that will be worth up to $2,500 a year for some Aussies. So, I mean, this is the thing. People are getting more access to their money. That is good. Fundamentally, I believe that people are smarter with their money than the state. And the problem is, with the state, you get a large bureaucratic organization, and it's not people dealing with their own money. If you haven't worked with the government, you may not appreciate what it's like, them spending their money. And some of the civil servants, frankly, they've never really run a business. They've never managed a business. They've never had their own home on the line. They've never had to pay their staff or get, borrow money to keep cash flow because a client's being troublesome and not paying on time. So they don't know the challenges of business. I guess we can see that's why our politicians and bureaucrats just keep adding more and more and more red tape. They'll set up red tape, the innovation red tape. Fill out these forms to increase your innovation score. I'm being completely facetious there, but you could see it happening. Maybe the board of bureaucracy or the board of reducing paperwork. Well, it is a position of efficiency, a minister of efficiency or something crazy like that in New South Wales. It just doesn't make any sense. So Scott Morrison has all but confirmed income tax cuts will be brought forward in the budget after slamming a new advertising campaign arguing against the move as taking money out of people's pockets. Exactly. Why are people advertising against tax cuts? Okay? It's our money. It's our money that we are required under force, under threat of jail, threat of the use of force against us. The government, remember, has the monopoly of violence, everyone. They've been given the monopoly on the use of violence to coerce us to do this. And it's our money. The Prime Minister's blunt response was triggered by a new national campaign to be launched by the left-wing think tank, the Australian Institute, today, urging the Morrison government not to fast-track income tax cuts in the October 6 budget. Now, we've looked at the Australian Institute. All you need to know about them, frankly, is the CEO, the man running it. He used to be working for the Greens. So there you go. I mean, there's ideological basis in these organizations, and that's fine. That's fine. And they definitely are left-wing. But, I mean, think about it. They've got money to spend on advertising campaigns. How would you be stupid enough to not want your own money? That's what I don't understand. The campaign, which will be rolled out on television screens from tonight, is arguing against the early introduction of legislated tax cuts worth up to $2,500 a year. Hopefully they'll do a YouTube campaign and you'll get an ad for that on this video. That'll always be sweet. The tax cuts worth $20 billion were scheduled to come into force in 2022. I mean, this is the thing. The Australian Institute and all the lefties, they think you're too dumb to deal with your own money. They think you're too dumb to deal with it, so they need to take it off you and manage it for you. And then they'll go and waste it on social programs that you might ideologically oppose to the core. But you don't have a choice. Yeah, that's the problem. Forced redistribution. The campaign against the early introduction of tax cuts is being supported by 40 prominent Australians, including Bernie Fraser, former governor of the Reserve Bank, Stephen Grenville, former deputy of the Reserve Bank, and Professor Peter Doherty, Nobel laureate in medicine. Okay. Why? Who cares? So a few Reserve Bank governors, interventionists, and a Nobel laureate in medicine. Okay, great. So none of these people have ever had to worry about their money. I'll make a claim there. I will happily make a claim. I bet you none of them have been in a financial situation where an extra $2,000 a year, $2,500 a year could change their lives. Do you think that's a fair statement to make, a fair assumption? Where for other people, $2,500 can make a big difference. Remember, you have to pay the state. before you get to pay your house, before you put a roof over your head. Cutting taxes for already wealthy Australians will undermine... what we can do is all these people here, they can pay extra tax to the government voluntarily. They can make extra donations. There's the capacity to do that. Nothing wrong with that. Let them do it. That's fine. What about this advertising, the cost of this advertising campaign? You just pay straight to the government to allow them to spend, rather than create this and allow everyone else who wants to hold on to their money, let them hold on to it. How about that? Cutting taxes for already wealthy Australians will undermine the long-term strength of our public services like healthcare and education. Well, education is already doing shit, okay? We've thrown money at it, we've thrown money at it, we've thrown money. We've thrown so much money at education. We had the building education revolution. Look at it. We're getting dumber, okay? We're getting dumber. Our results are going down. Australia's economic complexity is in the gutter. I know I harp on about it all the time, but it's damn important, guys. What's the point in, the government's wonderful strategy of attracting more migrants over to Australia with university education when these poor people can graduate with an advanced degree and never find a job in their field here? So they think it'll do very little to stimulate economic growth, said Ben Oquest, director of the Australian Institute. Yes, but it's the right thing to do, to allow people to have access to their money. Remember, every tax dollar that is spent is someone's potential mortgage payment. Is food out of someone's mouth that you're taking. It's new clothes for a child. I can play this emotional manipulation game as well. Both sides can do it. And it's fun. It's probably funding a corrupt civil servant, maybe. Just think about that. That's got 5 houses. And then like those idiots in Canberra that were doing the dodge with the IT. Remember the IT bloody contracts? Or maybe someone who's working for a corrupt politician that's not declaring his properties. I mean, guys, this is it. You can play it both sides. It's just manipulation. It's just jealousy and manipulation. They're trying to play the class struggle here. Tax is an investment in our society. Those calling for tax cuts today will be calling for services cuts in the future. Yes, no, I'm not calling for services cuts in the future. I'm calling for them now. There's a lot of dead weight there, guys. There's a lot of dead weight. There's a lot of services that we're all used to that maybe we need to cut. Maybe we need to cut. Cut the carbs from the services diet. But a government spokesman for the Prime Minister has told news.com.au that he wouldn't be influenced by the new campaign. At a time of recession, the Australian Institute wants to take money out of people's pockets, he said. Of course they do. We're always focused on how we can give it back to them and lower taxes. The Australian Institute and the Labor Party have never met a tax increase they didn't like. However, it's the involvement of the former Liberal leader John Hewson in the campaign against tax cuts that is set to raise eyebrows. So here we go. If your taxable income, if you're earning 20 grand a year, well, you'll get no reduction. Oh no, you're not paying any bloody tax, guys. If you're earning 21,000, you get 87. But look at all these rich people here. Why does someone on 200,000 get a $2,500 tax? I mean, do people really fall for this shit? Really? Do they really fall for this? Here's the thing. If you want a bigger tax return, earn more money. Okay? Earn more money. This is the problem is, it fundamentally comes down to the fact that we've got the pay-as-you-go system where most average people don't actually feel the sting of paying taxes. It's their boss that handles it for them. Once you have to do that transfer to the tax department, small business people know how to do that. People who receive money from a trust know how to do that. If you send that money to them yourself, that'll shift the Overton window faster than anything. We need to abolish pay-as-you-go and make people pay their own taxes. And then we'll see how many people support all of these policies, how many people support what the Australia Institute is saying, how many people believe the bullshit that they see in these articles. And sorry I'm swearing, but it's getting annoying. We're seeing this same thing again and again. So Dr. Hewson has released a statement to back the Australian Institute's televised ad, where he warns tax cuts alone won't help the nation exit the recession. No, but they're an important part of it. reducing government interference in our daily lives is an important aspect of allowing people more control and over their individual agency, their individual freedom, and just maybe a chance to even start up a business. Because businesses create jobs, government doesn't. Government redistributes money. The Liberal National Party naively hope tax cuts are a good policy, but they won't be as they increase inequality and fail to ensure job security and increasing wages with our economy still struggling to exit recession, he said. We haven't even hit the bottom of the recession yet. I think discussion of even exiting recession is a bit naive at the moment. We need to look at ways that we can. And getting more money in the pockets of people is going to influence consumer confidence. It's going to influence consumer confidence, guys. You know, someone on 50 grand, another $1,000 a year. That's going to make a difference. That'll be a little bit extra every week that they may be able, okay, I'll go make that purchase. Or okay, I'll pay that a little bit extra off my mortgage. Oh, you know what? I can afford to pay that afterpay or that credit card bill. You know? In June, he famously campaigned to introduce a GST in the '93 election, giving rambling answers on how the tax would apply to birthday cakes before losing the unlosable election. Well, so, you know, there you go. Is he really relevant anymore? You know, the GST, what impact has that had? Well, let's see. We've got a housing bubble that's grown out of that in some ways because the government has just dumped money into property. Then we've got the Cantillon effect, which is causing, well, because that's where our money is created. Every time people get a mortgage, most of our wealth goes into there. Remember, when they had the GFC, they brought in the first home buyer grants to offset it. And look at that. Look at our quality of life. Wasn't the GFC meant to remove all these other taxes? Whatever happened to that, guys? Was that forgotten? Was that forgotten? Just wait. I'm thinking, or Rachel thinks as well, that they'll raise the GST. That after all of this, the GST will go up. In June, is he a doctor or Mr.? He conceded that going to an election calling for tax increases was a crazy brave decision. Sure, I also helped with answers about the price of birthday cakes, attempting to demonstrate the complexity of the sales tax system to be replaced by a simpler GST, he wrote. But this emphasized the need for a wide and informed public debate to overcome scare campaigns and to convince the electorate of the need for tax reform as a precondition of an effective overall reform agenda. Well, he's right there. There needs to be public debate. Just the complexity of our system is, it's just, but is it ever gonna be wound back? I suspect there's a desire in the public service to keep it complex, because then you can hide things. However, Dr. Hewson has also argued for a more comprehensive overhaul of the tax and transfer system that he argued was too complex, inefficient, and unfair. One option, he argued, was to increase GST, which is 10%, to 15%. Unfortunately, the Morrison government seems incapable of recognizing the opportunity. Can the states emboldened step up, he said. There is no doubt that increasing the rate to about 15% and extending its coverage as broadly as possible could produce 90 billion to 100 billion a year when the economy recovers, with about a third required to compensate the bottom 40% of income earners. This is a lot of financial capacity to start to reform the rest of the tax and transfer system. However, perhaps it would be better to be more innovative by ditching the GST and replacing it with a business cash flow tax in a style performed by former Treasury Secretary Ken Henry. Treasurer Josh Frydenberg first confirmed in July that bringing forward, and I'm not familiar with that, we need to look at this. That sounds a business cash flow tax? That sounds... Hang on, I gotta look this up. What is this? It sounds terrible. Business cash flow tax. We'll have a look here. Replacing company tax with cash flow tax from the conversation. So, rather than waiting for the world to reach an agreement to act against multinational corporations that shift profits to tax havens, Australia should consider adopting our proposal for a cash flow tax, which would increase both investment and government revenue. Many market-dominated multinational corporations have been aggressively reducing their global tax burden by shifting their profits to tax havens. Okay. Yep, whatever. So what is it? They want to tax cash flow instead of income. Well, okay. That's definitely something to look into. Wow. What do you think about that, guys? What do you think about that? You know, tax cash flow instead of income. What do you think that would that encourage innovation? Would that encourage foreign investment? Or would that encourage anyone who has the financial means to flee the country to do it? Treasurer Josh Frydenberg first confirmed in July that bringing forward the 2022 income taxes was a live option. There are 3 stages to those legislated income tax cuts, and you know the benefits are very clear. We've cracked one big tax bracket between 45 and 200,000, where people pay a marginal rate of no more than 30 cents in the dollar, he said. So we're looking at that issue and the timing of those tax cuts because we want to boost aggregate demand, boost consumption, put more money into people's pockets, and that is one way of doing it. The Australia Institute's campaign against the fast tracking of those tax cuts also being backed by the Australian Council of Social Services that warned more tax cuts now means more cuts to hospitals. It's always about hospitals and schools. I mean, have any of the people here that are writing this, have they ever gone and worked on a project for a hospital or sat down and seen how many people are sitting around a table at a hospital not really adding value to something? Maybe that's just my experience in some project meetings. Have you talked to any doctors that just will tell you how much waste and BS goes on in some of these places, guys? More tax cuts today mean service cuts tomorrow. Well, that's part of life, guys. Services just can't grow. We can't have so many people working for the state. We need to have a pullback on that. You know, I know ideologically, I know the left would love us all to be working for the state and everyone to get their ration card of one slice of, you know, of bug meat and, you know, live in their pod and have their bread in the queues. And I know they would love that. That would be their utopia. But a lot of people don't. They don't. A lot of people don't aspire to live in social housing. That isn't the peak of their existence. We need to the government needs to get out of the way and allow individuals to succeed. Is that even possible? I'll put that question to you. Is that even possible in Australia? Is it even possible in Australia? The next stage of the legislated tax cuts will reduce revenue by $12 billion a year and reduce taxes for people on 130 or more by $47 a week. And that means they'll be able to spend it. That's good. You know, the wealthier people create jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. People create jobs. Businesses create jobs. People taking risks. Most low and middle income earners get nothing. Well, then become a high income earner. Okay? Step up. That's life. You can't do it? Don't complain. You can live a very comfortable life on a lower income. It's just all about you. It's how you choose how to live. Yet it's only low-income earners that will spend most of any government stimulus. See, that's bullshit. That's just rubbish. It isn't. It isn't. It's wealthy people invest. They spend money too, okay? Maybe, you know, I'm sure everyone's got wealthy friends. You know, how many of them just squirrel everything away? Or how many of them spend? How many of them invest? How many of them have properties? How many of them have, you know, expensive, stupid toys they don't need? It's life. Instead, it's time to raise the rate for good by permanently increasing job seeker payments. Now, well, honestly, I think job seeker is quite low, but remember, it is an emergency measure. An emergency measure to keep people from being destitute. But if say you were earning, you know, another $1,000 a year and you managed to put it aside, would you need JobKeeper? Could you supplement your JobKeeper with savings that you built up, maybe a rainy day fund? Maybe because we're paying all this bloody tax, people can't save a rainy day fund and they just go straight cap in hand to the government. But no, you can't say that, Florian. It's blaming the victim. Former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank, Stephen Grenville, said the answer was more government spending and not tax cuts. Of course it is. We need substantial stimulus for an extended period. Cutting top rate income tax would be a weak stimulus, which undermines the equitable and progressive tax structure we'll need when the COVID crisis is over, he warned. See, I would argue this is just all the same old, same old. It really is. There's nothing different, nothing exciting here. It's all politically motivated. And I mean, I looked at the news.com article. ABC is exactly the same. You know, benefiting high-income earners. This is a very disingenuous take on this. And we see this... I mean, do journalists not understand mathematics? Is that the question? I mean, they don't have to do maths, do they, to get into journalism? But surely they're just being disingenuous and doing it for clickbait to try and get an advantage of the class struggle. You want to pay more? You want to get bigger tax return? Pay more tax, guys. You get to the higher levels, you'll see how much tax it pays, how painful it is. We need to, you know, I would argue for more special economic zones where we reduce government services maybe in these zones, but also reduce the tax burden and maybe have a little bit of an experiment to see which part of the country, you know, where people prefer to live. Which parts of the countries might be more successful. You know, what do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. You know, are you looking forward to those tax cuts or to those nasty rich people who are earning, you know, $100,000 a year? You know, should they not get their own money back? Do you think people really don't understand it? Do they fall for this stuff? Let me know in the comments, everyone. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.